Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Purple Hyacinth, Merciless Murder. Okay, accurate description. And we're here with Bundin and Fwoot.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, so we left off last chapter where the assassin offers to make a deal with her. And Lauren is left confused, and that's where we start off. She is facing the night. She has her radio in her hand, and there's an emphasis on the radio because she didn't use it. And that was a kind of a pivotal choice. She almost called him in, and then he stopped her with his words. So she's gripping it. And I think she's thinking about like, okay, why didn't I call them? What would have happened if I called them? And obviously, like, she has a lot to think about now with all that he told her. And she kind of stumbles from the emotional load. She falls over and she has this extremely grumpy look on her face. It looks like she's frustrated with herself.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Mm-hmm. You can just feel the conflict in her, like the two sides of her fighting over this, mulling over what he said. It was an intense chapter.
Yeah. She did, I think, let her emotions get the better of her and let her own personal life get in the way of her personal one. I don't remember, but her mask was knocked off, right? In the last episode?
Yeah.
It got knocked off, I think, in episode 2. Yeah, he kicked it off. And so it's just been on the floor.
Yeah, and she never put it back on. So that also it also does go to show that, yeah, she's picking up right here. It also does go to show that she let her guard down and she let her personal life interfere with her professional one.
Mm-hmm. That's like, I think, the conflict, right? If she would have done her job, she would have radioed in right away, and you probably would have gotten away fine. But like, she's mad at herself because she didn't. And again, like, this is her obsession, and we'll see throughout the story, she lets her obsession blind her and distort her judgment.
I think she's also confused because he is a person of contradictions. He's an assassin who wants to kill the leader. He wants to be on her side, wants to help her, but he just murdered 2 people. Like, how can she reconcile working with someone who's a murderer, but also has the same goals as her, and who she knows she could team up with and probably do better? Like, she obviously knows that what he's offering is something that she could finally use to get momentum, but it's the whole morality of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Is she willing to team up with the Purple Hyacinth himself to further her own goal and to further a goal, even if it is like a technically good one? It's like Bundin said, a big morality thing.
Right. Well, she doesn't even know he's the Purple Hyacinth yet, as of the beginning of the chapter. But yeah, she'll find out now.
Oh,
so anyway, so
she's an assassin. So
yeah.
I mean, we can assume though, they found the hyacinths at the scene, so.
Right, but she didn't know at the time.
No, she doesn't.
When she was with him, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she's heading back now to the scene, and you see, it's the house, and there's ambulances and the police cars. I always find it so funny. Like, sorry, go ahead.
I know, I was just gonna say, we can't hear the episode right now, but I love when you're reading it, when you get to this, when you just hear like the sirens fade in with the as like the ambience and the music. Again, the atmosphere for this is just so good, and just really builds on top of the art. I just wanted to say that. Sorry.
I think there's even like a dog bark or something, right? And that just also adds to the atmosphere. It makes it feel more real.
I can't remember that, but I believe it.
And one thing that I like is that, the setting is mainly like Victorian-ish, but then there's always these modern things that come in, like, for example, the sirens on top of the police car and the flashing lights. So, and there's like the telephones and the radios. So I'm still impressed because it manages to still give off that like early, century vibe, even though it has some modern implements in there. So it's cool. I like it. And I know there was a Q&A or it was something where they asked, fans asked the authors, what time period is it? And they're like, it's a made up time period. It's not consistent with anything. So I like that because I like when people are historically accurate, but it's, it doesn't jar. Like, it's overall, like it's still consistent enough where it doesn't throw you off. I read this other webtoon like last week where within the first episode, there was medieval references. There was costumes that were like the 1800s. There was something else that was from like the 500s. It was just a complete historical mess. And I could not stand it. But this one is fine. Like it just doesn't bother me because it's not meant to be accurate or anything.
Yeah.
Which webtoon was it?
I don't remember. It wasn't memorable enough.
Oh.
It was one of them that was on the promotion. It was like, they had like a Valentine's Day thing. And like, you read these 3 comics and you get like free coins. I think it was one of those.
I just
the one with the
scrolled through
blonde.
Was it Remarried Empress?
In public because whatever. But I try to say only nice things for sure on the podcast, but whatever. Yeah. So I'll keep it at that.
Opinions, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to. I like anybody who puts up a webtoon. I admire them, and I think I'm so happy when people get to do their creative work. And like, if it's not my style, that's fine. It should be for someone else's style. And I love to see people be creative and put things out. So, that's all good.
Yeah. But back to like the settings and costumes and stuff. What I like about Purple Hyacinth is that even though it's like what Victorian, but also maybe technology up to like the 40s and stuff with like the radios and the women being able to be police officers and stuff, all that. I enjoy the fact that it maintains its own internal logic. Like what you see is definitely within that weird window of time, and what they've established, they've never really deviated from that style. So even though it's made up and it's kind of like a broad range of inspirations, they stick to those inspirations, which makes you feel more grounded in the world, and it's more believable, I find, in terms of the world building anyways.
Yeah. No, there's almost everything is like Victorian, early 1900s, except for like a few bits of technology, which is, it's not like a cell phone, it's still early-ish.
Yeah.
It feels a bit surreal too, like a bit out of body, because like some of this stuff like shouldn't be fitting in with the Victorian aesthetic, but like Bundin says, it really creates its own world, and that's what makes PH like so unique as well, because it is pretty grounded, like it is sort of realistic, like you could kind of see it being real worldy, and it's not like super fantasy, but it does have its own little magic and stuff like that. So it's a very unique world.
I was listening to an interview with the authors, and they said that they asked them, where did you come up with the inspiration for the story? And they said they actually came up with this setting first. They wanted to write something Victorian inspired and like draw the costumes, and like the story came afterwards.
I love that. You could really feel like how much they love this aesthetic in this world, and they really picked a story that fits well into it, like this Victorian style thing. Like, yeah. I know they used like Jack the Ripper and stuff like that as inspiration as well, and you really do get that kind of gruesome vibe with it. I don't know, very well thought out world.
The plot, the characters, the world, they all fit seamlessly, and it's very admirable and impressive.
Yep. So they're taking the body, right? The bodies are covered into the hospital when Lauren walks past. She looks around, she's looking right and left, and she sees her buddies, right? Kim and Will and another person that we don't know yet, a young guy with freckles. And we didn't. Okay, he is we did meet him.
He was in the prologue.
Yeah, it's Harvey. Okay, yeah. So I know it's Harvey, but yeah, we did meet him. And so Will says, "All right, I need 2 officers." And then, Kim is like impatiently tapping her hand. She clearly has very little patience for like official stuff. And then she spots Lauren, and she's like, "Lauren," and she runs. It could also be a sign of her anxiety, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's her mainly being anxious about Lauren.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. And yeah, she spots her and she runs to her. She's clearly relieved. And Will also turns around and looks at her, and she says, "Are you hurt? Are you okay?" Attacking her. "I'm so glad you're back." And she's like burying her face in her chest. She's like, "Of course I am. Why were you so worried?" And, Will comes and he's like, "You were gone for so long. I was about to send someone out to look for you. What happened?" And she says, "He got away. I thought I had him, but I wasn't able to hold him." So she's not exactly divulging everything.
Not a complete lie though.
Yeah.
right. She learned, huh?
We don't see
And-
Lauren's lies though, unfortunately.
No.
What?
We don't see Lauren's lies.
Right, yeah. And she's like, had him, so you caught up to him. And then she's like, wait, you're bleeding. And he's like, that scumbag, he did that to you. It's nice. Like, they're very protective of her. And, Will is usually pretty calm. So the fact that he goes and like says that name, like calls him a scumbag, like he does care about Lauren.
Mhm.
And she's like, I know I was being careless. It won't happen again. She's like wiping her blood. So they're like, so you fought him? She said, yes. And they wounded him, but not enough to slow him down. And Kim's like, so you did catch him? And she says, he escaped me. And then Kim says, what's surprising is actually that you escaped him. And Will asks, could you describe him? And she says, male, tall, slim but strong, black long coat, probably in his 20s or 30s. The only weapon they saw was a sword of all things. So a sword is apparently an unusual weapon, even then.
Yeah, they got all their guns and stuff. So it'd be like the equivalent of somebody killing people with a sword at like the turn of the century, 1900s, whenever there are pistols, guns, bayonets.
Mhm.
Bayonets are more like mid 1800s. But yeah.
Well, they use bayonets and
It's like if someone used like a bow and arrow in today's world to kill someone. That's probably like their equivalent.
But there's like one assassin in the Phantom side who uses a bow and arrow.
sorry, go on.
Oh, I love Kim's body language in this scene. She goes from like tapping her fingers, like she's obviously very nervous because of the purple hyacinth that she saw. And the whole demeanor of the scene is so much more different from like episode 2 when we first saw them come in, because in episode 2 it was dark. Kim was more playful, she was making jokes, she was being lighthearted. And now there's a ton of police cars on the street. Instead of blue lighting, we have red lighting. Kim's very nervous, everyone's a little bit like on edge. We see Will with a lot more urgency, like he's like, all right, I need 2 officers, and he's like almost sending someone out to look for Lauren. It's a lot more anxiety in this scene, which is ironic because in the other one 2 people had just died, but here they're just dealing with the aftermath, and yet everything feels so much more I guess anxiety inducing.
Personal, that's why, I guess. Not just randos who are killed. It's her, like, it could be her friend in danger, but
yeah,
that's Kim.
we see Kim burying her head in Lauren's chest, like just holding on to her, like making sure that she's actually here. And as we go more into the story, this does seem a bit more tragic coming back to it in hindsight.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a discussion for another day, but yeah. So Will says, remarkable, Captain Herman is at the second crime scene. We didn't get a report, but let me help you. We have to get this bandage first. And Lauren like whips her head around. She's like, Captain Herman is here? And then it really can't be late. So clearly Captain Herman is punctilious. And she's like, I'm fine, seriously. And she's like clutching her arm, which is bleeding. She said, I have to give my report. Let's go. So again, Lauren, we're not surprised, but she doesn't let anything stop her, determined once again. And Kim says, you always push yourself too far. It's not healthy. So Kim realizes this. Good friend, good buddies know their friends' flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'll help you. Just wait a sec. But Lauren just oh wait, then Will stops her. He like grabs her hand. He's like, stop, are you crazy? With your skills you're more likely to kill her instead. They both have these angry marks. She's like, what did you say, you twat? So there they go again.
I love them.
Yeah. Non-stop. Like, last time you treated my wounds, you gave me some weird tea that gave me the runs for a week. Like, well, I'm glad, because you deserved every bit of it. Sniping at each other all the time.
That's great. A married couple.
And Lauren's like, gives this like peace sign, and she has already bandaged up her arm. She's like, if I waited for you two, I would have already bled to death. Let's go. So
she expects this from them. She's over it. She knows, she expects this, and it's like, we have things to do. She's just so done.
Gotta love the comedy in this series as well, like with all the grim dog horror, suspense, gruesomeness, the comedy can just be so stupid, and I mean that in the best way. That is a compliment. Like it helps break it up and makes it a lot more enjoyable, I think. So I love seeing these little comedic moments between friends.
It's also just so realistic, right? You can see this happening between like you and your own friends as well.
Yeah, 100%. I love like these in all webtoons, I love these little banter. So Will says, Lauren, you should get some rest first. I don't think you understand who you just fought. And she's like, yeah, I know, an assassin from the Phantom Scythe. And they're like, not just any assassin, you're lucky to be alive. And Lauren asks, what? And he's like, come on, you'll see for yourself. And she asks, did you see his face at least? Kim asks her. And then Lauren pauses. There's a moment. And, you know, here she has to decide, like, basically it's justice, police, law and order, job versus her revenge quest. And she says, no. And then she thinks to herself, when did I start lying to them? Oh, shizzle. And she sees his face on top of her, which if you're inclined to be thirsty, you could think in those directions, but you don't have to.
I love how they just hold off on telling her who it was, because they're just like, you know, let's just keep the suspense for the audience a little longer.
I think it's also like they know that she's gonna ask a million questions probably, and like they think it's probably just that's it for her to get all of her information out of the way before they tell her who it is.
Yeah,
because that might just distract from like the facts of what she witnessed as well. So could be that, but yeah, also good for the audience.
Yeah. And you know, it's tough, you know, like this is we see right away she's gonna have to start lying to him. If she chooses to collaborate with him, she's gonna have to start lying to a lot of people, and that's not an easy decision to make, especially when you know you're gonna have to lie to the people that you're closest with.
I also I like how we also see Kim's demeanor change again. When it comes to Lauren, she's very serious and professional. Like when Will and Kim catch up to her and we see like he's coughing because she's calling them out. She's pretty serious again as she follows Lauren as they go back up into the is it I think it's 𝗪𝗏.
Yeah, it's 𝗪𝗏.
Yeah.
Grayson was the first lady, the one with the maid. And I think the second one was the man.
And yeah, Kim is not even trying to make jokes anymore. She's just, you know, back to business. Did you see his face? And yeah.
Yeah, she thinks back to his face, that face where he was telling her, you know, I wouldn't hesitate to slit your pretty little throat. That's what he was telling her at that point. Very,
I have no regrets. The liar.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's the great one that we'll discuss in episode 3. Which great line. So anywho, we have an aerial shot, a bird's eye shot of police cars outside the building, and then we see them walk into the room again. And the bodies on the floor. They have these. They have these cards. They're taking pictures. There's people walking around doing detective-y stuff. And a man who we don't know yet, it says Lieutenant. Well, actually, it's right there. That's Captain Herman. And Will says, Captain Herman, Officer Sinclair is back. Officer Sinclair finally reports. And she says, the assassin escaped. I and 2 other officers were in pursuit, but they were soon outpaced. I pursued him for as long as I could and engaged him in a fight before losing him as well. And Will says, however, Officer Sinclair got close enough to tell him to be able to tell that we were dealing with a man, tall, slim, in his 20s or 30s. And he's like, I see, impressive. I'm pleasantly surprised, Sinclair. So we already see he doesn't exactly think highly of Sinclair.
The passive bullshit, just being like, oh, it's you, but he didn't kill you. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's very impressed. He's very professional. He doesn't even like check to make sure that Lauren's doing all right. He's just like, straight to the
The meaning talk.
yeah, straight to the point. He's like, report. He doesn't even check on how she is, like if she's all right, if she was injured. He's just like, okay, I want to know what happened.
And now Lauren asks that. She's like, what happened here? And he says, yes, Sergeant Liddell, Lieutenant Hawks. And then we see, the two detectives on the floor near the victim. And Kim says the victim was named Robert de la Roca, 40 years old, male, who was a rich merchant and owned large shares in the Royal Navy's shipyard, the main source of his fortune. And we zoom in on blood on the wall. It's covered with the wallpaper. It's a nice, elegant home. And they say his influence on the shipping market was considerable. And much like the late Lady Grayson across the street, he was known to have close ties with the royal family. It's no surprise the Phantom Scythe targeted them both. So here we have an indication, right? The royal family and the Phantom Scythe do not get along. Phantom Scythe is against the royal family. But it's not unusual, but it's still unusual since they both recently denounced the monarchy. So maybe in an attempt to save their own skins, no one supporting the royals is safe. So it's, a very vivid introduction to like the politics of this world, and where, the Phantom Scythe is against the monarchy, where people who support the monarchy are not safe. So it's hard to know who to trust, or, if what people say is real, because when people are afraid, they don't have the freedom to say what they really think. So not a great place if people can't even be authentic and, free to say their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have a little bit more exposition. The Phantom Scythe has always targeted the Citadel's ruling family. And you have that hand, that gripping hand, which symbolizes the Phantom Scythe. And then over the the crest of the 𝗏𝗏𝗡 royal family says, it said 𝗏𝗏𝗡
𝗏𝗏𝗡. I think, 𝗏𝗏𝗡, I think, is the last name of the royal family, like the house name.
Right. And then the bottom says 𝗙𝗏𝗏, I think it's missing something. 𝗪𝗏𝗏 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏 hyacinthus. I didn't look this up before. Should we look this up?
Fwoot, I think
we have it somewhere.
We have it because I think we used this in our Jeopardy that we did on the server.
Let me find it 1 second.
But notable thing while Fwoot looks that up is that there are hyacinths on the crest of the royal family. And the reference, it obviously hyacinthus probably means hyacinths in Latin. But big ostentatious looking crest.
And there's a deer with antlers and a royal crown above it. And then you see a king on the throne and a queen and a little boy, the prince.
I'm pretty sure it's something like strong as a stag, beautiful as a hyacinth, something like that.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
I can't find it, but from memory, I'm pretty sure it's something along those lines.
Strong as a what?
Strong as a stag, beautiful as a hyacinth.
Okay. Service. Yeah, I guess that means stag. Stag. That's what it means.
Oh, okay. Here we go. So someone back on the old server said the crest says strong as a deer, beautiful as a hyacinth. That's correct.
Yeah.
Nice.
So they're really just saying their family is beautiful. Wow.
I think I mean the kingdom, no?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the kingdom. If it's the royal crest, usually crests from royal families are for the house. So it's like
I found a photo which has the whole thing, and the top says 𝗏𝗏𝗡, I think, which I might mean family in Latin.
𝗏𝗏𝗡, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it means family.
Yeah, it's just like 𝗏𝗏𝗡 Ardales family, and then the motto of the family below. It's like Game of Thrones with the direwolf, winter is coming. That's how, I mean, it might just be the motto of like the country itself, but like, they might just share that. I don't know. But yeah.
I'm not sure. Google auto-corrected my shirt to 𝗏𝗏𝗡, which is Italian, which is the Latin thing, which with an 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So Wait, yeah, that might be an L instead of an I, or sorry, an L instead of a C. I can't really tell. So yeah, it might have been familia, not 𝗵𝗂𝗰𝗀𝗃.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell the horn is, or the antler is blocking it.
Ooh.
Yeah. So here we continue with the scene, and Marsh says, "Good assumption, but forensics stand more. Rocca appears to have fought back before the assassin killed him. The gunshot you heard was from 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗀𝗪's weapon." And Lauren says that makes sense. As near as I could tell, the assassin was only carrying a sword. He probably got into the mansion through a window and waited for his target to fall into his trap. He must not have expected that the man would be carrying a gun. And he's still holding the gun. The victim's still holding it. And then she points to a hole in the wall. And she says 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗀 must have tried to defend himself and shot at the assassin, but missed. Probably because he would have been trying to run away at the same time, and he seems to have collided with a desk. And we see an illustration of the man, near the desk. If he was running, that would also explain the wound on his back, because you see that looks like he bumped into it. He must have turned around to try to shoot the assassin again, which is when the scumbag finished his work by slitting 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗀's throat. And we see the man on the floor, encased, covered in blood. And then the killer escaped through the window, which is when I spotted him, because we see broken shards of glass through the window. And the blonde detective is just like, we have this kind of comedic panel of her, looking like, like, how did you get all that?
Yeah, it really demonstrates Lauren's ability as a detective, which is a bit odd because we're like, why is she like doing this analysis better than the detectives that we see, like March and the blonde woman, when she's an officer? Like, she's with Kim and Will. We don't see Kim and Will being this analytical at the crime scene. So why is she an officer when she should be a detective?
And March has this proud smile on his face. He says, "Good analysis and clear." And I like that. It's kind of like, well, we'll know more about March later, but he seems to be proud. He's like seems like a generous person, emotionally generous.
He seems like he's very I think he does like Lauren as an officer, like as a person to work with. I feel like he sees a lot of potential in her, maybe. But
yeah, but Herman, not quite that same attitude. He says, "Leave the investigating to the detectives, Officer Sinclair," emphasizing that she is not a detective.
And also emphasizing he does not like her.
Yeah. And there's this panel of Lauren just looking down with a little bit of a dejected look on her face. And
we don't like you either, Herman. So
I'm not so against Herman, but I'm also, as I mentioned at some point, very straight-laced myself, and I like these kind of hard-nosed personalities. I like people with a lot of discipline and rigid rules. I guess, I don't know, maybe I don't, but whatever, in the story I do. So I guess strength. I admire people who are very strong.
Mm-hmm.
So
me at this point, not despising Herman has become a joke on the Purple Hyacinth server. And yeah, I don't hate him. There's definitely more to like his character, and I think I've talked a bit about it with you, Mindy. I'm cuffed to him as a joke on the PH server.
Yep. She's handcuffed to him. It's a rule that we made people when they do, like when people don't sleep at night, when they do things that are like silly, that we jokingly want to like penalize them for. So yeah, we have Fwoot handcuffed to Herman. And she's gonna be handcuffed to Herman for the indefinite future.
Okay, well, I wouldn't want to be handcuffed to Herman, I will say that. What do you have to do to get handcuffed to Kieran? I'm just asking.
We have different handcuff roles. You could get Kieran, you could get Herman, other characters that we meet. But yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so Marsh says an investigation will be open tomorrow, as he's writing in his notebook. From what we know for sure, looking at the method, is that the two murders tonight were definitely committed by the same killer. And of course, it just has to be the worst 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏 has ever known. And he's writing in his notebook 1 slash in the back and 1 finishing blow on his neck. And he or somebody says, "I will alert the castle and royal guard. Their security needs to be tightened before he strikes again."
I think that's Herman. Yeah, since he's police captain.
Yep. And Marsh says, "It's been a curiously long time." I'm so sorry, guys. Since he was last seen around the city. Killing 2 people on the same night is not his typical modus operandi either. So maybe something to keep in mind. We don't know.
Why was he taking a break?
That's for sure something we have to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, do we get like confirmation on how long he was gone? Because people say it was like 3 years or something, but I'm not sure if we know.
I think that might be in the next episode. Like the next time that we cut back to this, because I don't think the next episode focuses on the police. I think we go to a different place in the next episode, from what I remember. So I think they bring that up at some point, but he's been gone for some sort of stretch of time, probably a few months, let's say. Or he hasn't committed any murders. He could have just been not murdering, but
learning how
reading
to
a book, planting a garden, writing poetry. Which, by the way, is very likely given what we know later.
Bundin, you did not.
Yes, I did. I have to reference the pet bunny. I wrote a fic once, a crack fic about him owning a pet bunny.
Oh my gosh.
He was farming some rocks.
Wait, where do you put your fic?
Oh, AO3. I can link it to you after.
Yeah, I can link it in the show notes. I generally tend to do that if people have a AO3.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, and then I'd like to read it. I haven't read any PH fiction yet, fanfic yet. I'm so behind on mid-popular and fanfic. But yeah, sometimes I feel like I added more schoolwork to myself when I feel like I'm obliged to read everything. Anywho, so Will says, just like Furman, when we thought he was finally gone for good, he pops back up. And again, it's I mean, not surprising that you would say that about an assassin, but it also is a very strong language to talk about, a person like that. And Kim, as always, the sneaky bastard slipped through our fingers, even when we were closer than ever to catching him. And she's like, what do you mean? We already know the identity of the killer? That's Lauren asking that. And they both, Herman and March just look at her like incredulously, like they just turn back, like, see, they're so surprised that she doesn't know. And March is like, of course we know. And Herman says he signed his murders like he always does. And he steps forward and he says, Officer Sinclair, the assassin you encountered tonight is none other than, and he holds up the bag, the Purple Hyacinth. It's the bloody Purple Hyacinth.
Such a good moment.
Roll credits.
I mean, just look at the lighting on Lauren and even Herman. It's fantastic. It's gorgeous. And then we just build suspense. Like Lauren's like, wait, we already know who it was. And March is like, of course we know. And then we got Herman talking and we see Herman walking towards something, but we're not entirely sure. And then I think Grace, or the blonde lady, hands him a bag. And we're like, wait a minute. And then Herman holds up the bag and it's the confirmation for the audience. And we're like, oh no. And then we get the dialogue. And then we're Lauren in that moment. Lauren is us. We're just
nutty.
And yeah, we're shocked.
Although we technically did know from episode 2, right? Because
he's holding it. Like we don't know. We didn't have a name drop of the Purple Hyacinth, but like we can assume that it's something to do with the Purple Hyacinth. But now we know that that's just his calling card. That's his name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she is looking completely, shocked. Her eyes are wide open, and like you said, there's this gorgeous lighting, and now the hyacinth is blurred.
It's like we're looking through the bag. Like that's how I kind of see it. It's focused on her, but then we can see through the bag. It's just really interesting shot composition. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. And now we have the image which we had before of the Purple Hyacinth's petals falling through darkness, and they're lit up. It's just beautiful. It's a very, very beautiful cartoon. Like the flowing, the image is beautiful. And then you have again this sensitive shot of the Purple Hyacinth, who now we've met in person, and he's leaning against a rooftop, and you know, his hands are bloody. He's wearing a little bit of a gorgeous shirt, you know, kind of open.
The billowing pirate
Titty
shirt
window.
with the bee and the
Titty window.
and the blood. And
I'm happy that he's wearing that shirt. So
everybody's happy that he's wearing that shirt.
He's gorgeous. Okay,
But
never mind.
suddenly-
Next.
Suddenly this scene makes so much more sense now that we know that he's the purple hyacinth. We were like, oh, he's holding a purple hyacinth, but now we know that he goes by the name Purple Hyacinth.
I love that the name of the story takes on so many different, like the different ways you look at it. The story title can be different things. It's named after the flowers because he's the purple hyacinth, but they obviously have a symbology bigger than what we know because they're on the crest of the royal family. And in the prologue, I think when we cut to, no, I think it's episode 1 where it's like her date that she's on. There are purple hyacinths all over in little like window boxes and stuff. So it's interesting. And then if you go deeper and you look up what hyacinths mean, purple hyacinths mean, it's like, I'm sorry, an apology. So it's just like, there are layers. It's like the onion from Shrek, there's layers.
The interesting thing is that the title isn't the Purple Hyacinth, it's just Purple Hyacinth.
Mhm.
And so, you know, when you refer to someone, you say like and you don't like have their name, you're like the baker, or like in this case, the Purple Hyacinth. So it makes me feel like the title isn't necessarily referring to him, nor is the flower, because like a purple hyacinth, the purple hyacinth, there's no article there. And so it's just purple hyacinth. And like Bundin said, the meaning is like sorrow, regret, apology. And so that is basically the title of, it makes me think that this is the title of PH. It's I'm sorry. That's like, you know, because that's the meaning. It's like regret, because you don't say the I'm sorry, maybe like I'm sorry, or like an apology, but you don't, it's more like you can leave it by itself. If that makes sense.
No regrets. Like we see you, Mr.
And that's, you know, that's like the saving grace, right? Because a true psychopath has no regrets. A true psychopath doesn't care about other people. But this one, he does, right? If we're to correctly, I think, assume that the purple hyacinth, he chose it for apologizing, he does feel bad. And the last few scenes over here, like panels here, I think show that side of him. You know, he seems to be leaning back against the wall. He's got his hand on his head. He looks like he is contemplating and a bit sorrowful, you know. Obviously he's just come back from a murder, or this is not after, he's not wearing the same thing as now, like, so it's presumably not, you know, like right after this episode. But it's just, I think, a general shot of him, you know, after he's done something violent and just like looking at himself and like, what have I done? Like, why am I doing this? And like, who am I? And what kind of person am I? And, you know, leaning back and not wanting to really, nobody wants to think of himself as a bad person. But this is who he is, and this is who he's become. And that scene of him looking at the purple hyacinth, and it just looks like a very contemplative, sorrowful scene. And it ends with him sniffing it and smelling it. And, you know, we talked about this because it's in the prologue, I believe, you know, where he is still able to find the beauty, even despite his crazy life.
This backstory is gonna hurt us so much.
Yeah,
I'm going to be so sad, and I'm ready.
bring on the pain.
You know, speaking of tropes, like it's definitely a trope to have like bad boy with a troubled past, you know, like he's bad, and then you find out and you're like, oh my god, he's a terrible person, and then you find out why, because some terrible, awful thing that happened to him. And you know what, like it's so tropey, and I love it. I've always loved that.
I think
Honestly,
I put that as one of my things in my presentation: tall, dark, and handsome, bonus points for trauma.
So it's so on point that what, and I've always been in love with that, because when I was a kid, I always took out those orphan books. All my daydreams were always about a guy with a like little abused background. I married a guy like that, And then I wrote a novel. I wrote like a novel when I was in 8th grade. It filled the whole notebook. So it was a novel in my eyes. And it was about a boy who was an orphan and he'd been abused when he was younger. And his name was Renee, which is my husband's middle name. And I was like, that was very funny. And yes, so I've always fallen for that. And that's just, for better or for worse, it's what I like.
Honestly, if I meet Kieran in real life, I know a bunch of people would be like, oh, I'd kiss him, or I don't know, I'd flirt with him or something. I would slap Kieran, or I keep saying his name. Whoops, I'm sorry. I would slap him if I met him in real life. Like, I want to punch him, but then I want to give him a hug.
Oh, please elaborate. Why do you want to punch him? Besides for the fact that he murders people in horrible ways.
I would direct him to the nearest therapist with a hug.
Good luck. Just good luck getting people to go to therapy. Just anyway.
Oh, I know.
He has a punchable face. A very, very punchable face.
I can't deny that. He is a little shit, as we saw in episode 3. But I love him. It's like, yes, but it's him. We can't, that's my boy. That's my boy.
So I'm gonna make an episode comparing Tora and this guy, Kieran. We might as well say we've said it 10 times already. Then one of the things that will come up later is a reason that I prefer Kieran to Tora. But I'll let you guys know after we record. But when I saw something about him later, I was like, okay, he just scored a lot more points in my eyes.
I used to read Midnight Poppyland, but I dropped it like 2 episodes before the finale because I didn't realize the finale was coming up. I need to reread it. Yeah.
I haven't read it yet. So many of my webtoons are on hiatus right now. I might as well.
There's so many webtoons I need to reread. I've been meaning to reread Shiloh, but I keep not getting around to it.
Okay, I heard about it, so I haven't read it yet, but I should. But anyway, actually, let's first finish talking about this episode in terms of recording, because I don't want random stuff to be on the recording. I feel bad for people.
Let's get back to it.
Sorry.
But, no, I mean, so we finished the episode. Do we have anything to say about the episode, like to end it off?
Lauren's feeling even worse now because not only did she just let an assassin go, she let go the worst assassin in the city, the most infamous, known for brutality and no witnesses, nobody escapes him, but she did. And I think it's just bending her mind even more because it's like the best assassin wants to work with me to take down his boss. What? So gotta love the conflicts that arise out of every little thing that we learn.
And just the build up, everything just keeps building up more. Like in the prologue, we meet this dude for the first time and we're like, oh, okay, who is he? And we're introduced to the Phantom Scythe, so that like sets the ground. We're introduced to everyone. Then we have episode 1 and we get the murders in that episode, and so like, it's like oh what's happening. And then we get Lauren called in, and then in episode 2 we see the maid rush out and we see that the bodies are there, and then we see this man jump out of the window, and then we see Lauren chasing this man, and then we see Will and Kim realize who this man is, and Lauren doesn't know who this is, and we're not entirely sure that we have some idea. And then Lauren catches up to him and we see his face, and then he proposes the deal to her, and he gets away, and then she comes back and realizes he's the Purple Hyacinth. He's the worst assassin in the city. Like, everything just keeps on building, and she's like, she might even end up working with him. And so it's brilliant. Everything just keeps going up and up and up, and it's a roller coaster.
That's great.
And I know you were mentioning, you said before, like, not only is he an assassin, he's the Purple Hyacinth. I've read, the book that to me was the most influential in storytelling was Robert McKeith's book, Story, but I'm sure it's a general principle. In order to make your story meaningful and emotionally impactful, the stakes have to be high. So, that just upped the stakes, and that made this decision and this encounter even more meaningful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You get the sense that it's like, it's not like the last chapter especially was really like a big curveball, but now the curveball is like a tornado. It's like, where is it gonna go? And spoiler alert, it just gets worse from here.
Everything.
Yep.
Everything is going uphill yet going downhill at the very same time.
It's great. It's a great roller coaster to be on.
Yep. Okay. Well, have we exhausted our talk on this episode?
I think so.
I think so as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me end the recording.